hello, good evening, good day, or whatever time it is around the world. You're listening to Force 13 Live. My name's Nathan Foy. And we're tracking storms right now. Two typhoons in the Western Pacific, Typhoon, Atsani and Goni. Both strong storms. Goni with winds of 130 miles an hour and could become a super typhoon very soon. We're on for the next hour talking about these developments. I'm joined today by Craig. Craig, you there?
Yes.
Hi,
Hi.
how are you doing?
I'm doing pretty well.
Excellent. And you've been following these storms for the whole morning, haven't you?
I have indeed.
Local time here in the UK, of course, it's 4 p.m. Of course, over in Asia, night has fallen, and of course, the overnight hours might be rather interesting with these storms. We're also tracking other systems out there as well. Tropical Depression 11E, not going to be with us for much longer, I don't think. And Invest 96L, which may have a future in the Atlantic. But the main focus of this event are those two typhoons. The breaking news is that Atsani is stronger, up to 110 miles an hour at 3 p.m. UTC, and Goni's air pressure is indicated to be at around 920 millibars. Craig, you're a bit annoyed this afternoon, aren't you?
Yes, I am.
Do you want to explain?
Well, get a piece of pen or get a piece of paper and pen because this might be a while. Right. I think the JTWC have got a call wrong here on Goni, saying that it's not going to become a Category 5 typhoon. Now,
They were saying that for a while.
they were.
Mm.
Yeah. I don't know if you're still... Well, you're not screen sharing, but I'll just show people the satellite imagery. How is that not going to be a Category 5? Really?
Well, I suppose the jury's still out in a way, because, I mean, this eyewall replacement cycle this storm's been having might take longer than predicted, we don't know.
Yeah.
It might struggle to get its act together, but if it does, it will be bombing out, I expect it to be a significant storm. Multiple models have been saying that Goni will become a very strong typhoon, not only Category 5, but sub 900 millibars, wind speeds over 180 miles per hour, quite possibly, out of this storm in the next few days. But the agencies erring on the side of caution, and possibly some other models that say that Goni will not be the headline storm and that it may well be Atsani instead. I just want to actually have a look at what on what the forecast is for Atsani. I don't think I've seen the latest one yet. The latest forecast, still call. Actually, they're saying now that the storm will become the same intensity as Goni. So Atsani and Goni predicted to become both super typhoons at 150 miles per hour. Let me just get Goni's up whilst I'm here as well. There's Goni. That's the latest forecast from the JTWC, showing it also 150 miles an hour, and that's by third to last dot there, the one just before it turns towards Taiwan. And again, Taiwan could be having problems with this storm, indeed, as well as the northeastern tip of the Philippines. Any questions whilst we're on air, please let us know. Just send them in on the YouTube page right now, and we'll do our best to answer them. Any questions or comments on the current storms are most welcome. We will answer them. Excellent. So Goni with winds of 130 miles an hour, Atsani winds of 110. No warnings in effect right now, but that may change in a few days, though we're not expecting that situation to change yet.
Not yet.
No.
Atsani.
Have you got any other imagery to show us on there, Craig, by any chance?
Yeah, I've just went and got Atsani up, and
Okay. There's Atsani.
this is Atsani. It's got a relatively, relatively ragged eye category, classic Category 2 eye wall, good cloud structure to the south of the storm, would you say there, Nathan?
Sorry, just a moment. No, what we're looking at here, Craig? I don't think.
Atsani.
Yes, of course.
Cloud struck round
Go on to one of the
Yeah,
animated
go on
views.
to the animated views. Of course, a very good, nice, clear eye wall.
Yeah, the eye is looking much better in those latest frames since night fell, really. And it will be really interesting to see how it look in the morning, and I reckon it will be a major typhoon by then, Category 3 at least.
It's supposed to become I think it is supposed to become a Category 3. There's the scandal created by the JTWC. I'll just try.
You're really not very happy about this, are you?
I'm not. I'm really not chuffed with that. They need to look at the satellite imagery again. Back to the drawing board.
I'm sure they'll have a reason for it, and I'll delve into that in just a moment after I do my latest. I'm just posting the video out on Facebook and Twitter right now to make people aware that we are here and we exist. Venom Rocket says, hey, how are you? How are you doing? Fantastic. Welcome. Thanks for joining us. Welcome aboard. And I hope you enjoy the show, as I hope anyone else will who's watching. But anyway, go ahead, Craig. Now, who else were you annoyed with? Were you annoyed with Sims by any chance?
I was annoyed with Sims.
Who aren't you annoyed with?
No, I'm not annoyed with a lot of people. This is just occurring far too often now.
Weakening.
It occurred when it was Yes, it occurred when Goni was tropical storm, and even a Category 1 typhoon when it was strengthening. God knows how the hell they got that wrong.
Okay, well, let me read out the whole of the thing that it says on the JTWC website. It's a bit cut off there.
Well, this is a different news for Atsani. Seeing it's a Category 4 of 6.3.
What's that?
Atsani. This is the latest on it. Apparently, there's no weakening flag on. Hurrah! That's the first time I've seen it offer. Atsani, and scene type's now focused on the eye wall.
Yeah, here's the latest prognostic reasoning from the JTWC.
Here we go.
If I can move it, there it is, in the center. 6-hour summary and analysis, located approximately, this is the latest information, 392 nautical miles northwest of Anderson Air Force Base. That's on Guam. I don't know how they've managed to be so accurate. Has tracked west-northwestward at 12 knots over the past 6 hours. Imagery depicts a consolidated, low-level circulation with a occluded eye. The confidence remains high for the position of the system despite the lack of solid microwave data. Goni is undergoing rapid intensification, it says again, increasing nearly 60 knots over the past 24 hours with an assessed current intensity of 115 knots. Though, having said that, it's not intensified any in the last 12 hours or so. The rapid intensification all occurred before then. But anyway, the forecast philosophy, no change since the previous message apparently, but tracking west-northwestward through 72 hours under the steering influence due to the favourable environmental conditions, including low vertical wind shear, warm sea surface temperatures and excellent outflow. 16W Goni is forecast to continue to intensify rapidly through 24 hours with a peak of 125 knots. Though, you know, this is the West Pacific, and if they say rapid intensification, you can't rule out Cat 5, can you, Craig?
No, you cannot. Well, this is the latest, microwave imagery. It says that Goni has strengthened to 116 knots. Still 130 miles per hour. That's only 131. I basically edged that up, that it is still strengthening, but the strengthening, it's slowed down a little bit. As you said, still cannot rule out Cat 5. It's too soon to, still too soon to rule it out.
Yeah, sure. I mean, you look at the imagery there, and you can obviously see the earlier eye, which is fading away, and the new one forming around it.
Yeah.
It's like a tiny island, isn't it, in the middle of the eye?
Yeah. the double eye wall,
Hmm.
the double eye wall effect. This is basically still the original eye here.
Yes.
This is the main one,
Is that still
and then the
alive?
new one. I don't think so. I think it's been wiped out. Really.
Hmm.
I think I just brought this up. I think that was looking Atsani's looking Cat 4 now. I'm not sure about you, but I think that's Category 4.
Check
I
out
might
the
need to
image.
expand it a little
We'll
bit,
check
but
out the imagery on that in a moment. This is the floater image of Atsani right now. Oh, why is it squished? It's
oh
squished on
dear.
my screen. It's because I was trying to resize the prognostic reasoning message. There we are, you can see the proper view of Goni now. And yeah, the eye is certainly not well defined yet, but it may be getting there, and it may be a different story entirely in the next 24 hours. I guess that period over the next 24 hours is going to be key as to whether we're going to see a Category 5 or not. If it dawdles, we probably won't. If it really gets its act together quickly and really intensifies, then we could be seeing a Category 5 for some time to come. I think we've lost Craig for the time being. So in the meantime, I'll just show you the other imagery. That was Goni. We can also take a look at Atsani right now. On the infrared imagery here too. Atsani's eye obviously much more clear. You can see it developing there, still fairly ragged, and that's been the case pretty much since it formed, but yeah, certainly getting its act together slowly but surely, and I do think it's going to be a slow process over the next few days with Goni, because I guess it's because it's a much broader system. We don't have the visible Himawari imagery, obviously, because it's nighttime hours over there, but if we did, you would be able to see the storms. You can obviously still see it on the water vapor imagery, which will be showing up on here shortly. I'll point that out when it comes up, but you can see all the storms there. Tropical Depression 11E down there as well, still looking fairly, well, not much of it, is there? No wonder it didn't become a tropical storm, but still with 35-mile-an-hour winds and 1004 millibars. But doesn't appear to be getting named. Invest 96L looking a little bit more disorganized than it did yesterday. I don't know whether that might be a little bit of an illusion perhaps, but 96L. The NHC actually saying a 70% chance on 96L becoming a tropical cyclone in the next 5 days, 50% chance in the next 48 hours. So there's certainly a chance for 96L. The HWRF model was predicting a category 1 or 2 hurricane to come out of that in the central Atlantic, so we'll be certainly keeping eyes on that one. Should the Atlantic decide to wake up. At Sarni there you can see that 110 miles per hour, I think that's still the case. And you can see the latest visible nighttime imagery there from MTSat. And Goni also, again, the eye not particularly clear on that just yet, but it might come out a little bit later on. 130 miles an hour it remains. And JTWC, they say rapid intensification expected 420 miles west-northwest of Saipan and Guam. Out at sea at the moment and won't be affecting any other land areas for around 2 or 3 days. There's the water vapor imagery. You can see at Sarni quite a bit bigger than Goni. Certainly its eye is anyway. Goni had a tiny pinhole eye yesterday if you missed it on our last live event. But yes, Goni will probably be getting a little bit larger as it moves off towards the west-northwest also, but probably not by much, at least not until it turns towards Taiwan and then heads towards the north. But at Sarni, the model's certainly saying that Sarni could become a bit of a monster, certainly in terms of size rather than its intensity, but still a Category 4, possibly Super Typhoon. We could be looking at a very strong storm to come out of that. And indeed, there is still that possibility that both storms will become super typhoons. Venom Rocket says it's 96L in the Atlantic or East Pacific. Yes, it's in the Atlantic. The L gives you a little clue there. The L, of course, the suffix meaning the Atlantic. When you see an E, that is Eastern Pacific. Well, we'll probably be back in a moment. I'll just leave you with the screen rolling by to see where Craig's run off to. That's all from me for now. Welcome back, this is Force 13 and you're watching the latest on Typhoon, Atsani and Goni. My name's Nathan Foy, we're back. And I think Craig is also back, if I can just turn him up. Hello Craig.
Hello.
Welcome back. Where have you been?
Internet failed me.
Internet failures.
Yes. It did.
Fantastic. What can you do?
Nothing.
Were you in the middle of saying something? I can't remember now.
Was I? I'm trying to recover that actually. Yes, I was on about Goni. Well, not Goni. Atsani. That it might be a Category 4 already.
You think so?
Yeah, the latest satellite.
It has that sort of hallmark, doesn't it, where it could possibly be.
It does. It's the eye wall just needs to. Well, the eye wall just needs to expand a little bit, just round itself off to classify itself as a Category 4, maybe even Cat 3. Who knows?
Cat 4, maybe even Cat 3. Craig says.
Yeah, but I've just done what they did last time with Dolphin. Cat 3's suddenly stronger than Cat 4. Okay.
Cat 4 is stronger than Cat 5.
Yeah.
Yeah. Alright, well that's Atsani on the satellite imagery in the bottom left corner of your screen there. 110 miles per hour officially. Let's take a look at the sea surface temperatures now then. Shall I screen share with you, Craig, so you can also see what's going on? It's a bit awkward doing this because it takes a little while for me to find the right thing to screen share. There it is. So this is the sea surface temperatures around the world right now. As always, I start from left to right. The Eastern Pacific looking fairly warm, around 28 to 30 degree temperatures in some areas, especially off the coast of Mexico, very warm. Gulf of Mexico looking good as well, 30 degrees plus for the whole Gulf.
Yep.
Except the southern extremities and off the coast of Texas there perhaps. The east coast of the United States, very warm all the way up to the outer banks of North Carolina. The Caribbean, again, a little bit cooler there. Only around 26 to 28 degrees there. Not so warm. But out in that Atlantic area, if Invest 96 decided it wanted to skirt the Lesser Antilles and then move off out to sea, it could have a good chance of becoming a significant hurricane. And water temperatures over the whole of the Atlantic, much cooler relatively speaking towards the eastern side of the Atlantic, but still 26 degrees plus, enough to sustain tropical development as far as about 30 degrees north and 60 degrees west perhaps? 40 degrees west.
Possibly, yeah.
This little area here. Let's move further east over the North Indian Ocean. Again, that cool spot towards the western side, very cool waters there, 24 to 26 degrees. No chance if a storm forms there. But the rest of the North Indian Ocean is looking fairly good if any storms decided they wanted to form. That usually happens around September, October time, if any form at all. And into the Western Pacific there, that's probably the most important basin right now. Very warm waters almost across the board, except for over Micronesia, where again, relatively speaking, it's a little bit cooler, but still around 28 degrees Celsius and over 30 degrees off the eastern coast of the Philippines, which would supply a lot of fuel for Goni if it decided it would move a little bit further south, which is what some of the models are currently hinting. We'll probably take a look at those a little bit later on as well. An interesting little swathe here off towards the far northeast of your screen. You can just see it there right below where I'm speaking. That little area there where it's 30 degrees right off out to sea, around 30 degrees north. So I don't think Atsani will be entering that area, but if a storm did, you could be seeing quite a strong typhoon in a surprising location, but maybe wind shear is high in that area. We'll take a look at that next, shall we? Craig, you still there?
Yeah.
What do you think of that?
Well, that sliver of very warm waters, actually, it's quite a surprise to see it up there.
Yes, that's what I thought as well. Well, here's the latest wind shear map for the West Pacific. Now, people watching may think that this is big mess jumble of colours. I'll try my best to explain it. The bluer colours, and perhaps the dark green, showing low amounts of wind shear, up to 20 knots. The yellows, the oranges, the reds, high amounts of wind shear, which usually tear apart storms. So that's bad news for the typhoons if there's a red zone right in front of it. The lines, the right lines mean that it's increasing by the number shown, and it's the opposite, of course, for the blue dashed lines. So to the northeast of Goni, for instance, the storm on the left-hand side, marked with the hurricane icon, it's decreasing rather rapidly to the northeast, but it is increasing in front of the storm to the west at this time, which could possibly hinder development a little bit later down the line, who knows. And a high slither of wind shear still remaining off the northern tip of the Philippines out towards the northeast. That's been there for some time. But it is decreasing off to the east of Taiwan. Where Atsani is right now, low amounts of wind shear, again, very near zero, actually, I think. So, very good conditions for Atsani, and that it makes you wonder whether that will become the headline storm, the Cat 5, the super typhoon.
It's got all the conditions going for it. It's got the warm waters, it's got the low wind shear, it's got everything going for it.
Yeah. So there's the two storms. Let's take a look at the Atlantic as well, because that's obviously of our interest now, believe it or not. The Atlantic's finally of our interest. So the invest, it's not marked on this image, but it's near the bottom right hand side, pretty much where the lowest amount of wind shear is actually. You can see a huge area of high wind shear off to the northwest of the storm, which may lead to problems down the line unless it decreases. For the rest of the Atlantic, the Caribbean area looking fairly not good. The northern part of the Gulf of Mexico looking fine though. The northern side of the Dominican Republic and Hispaniola looking good as well. There was a little system there yesterday, but that has really fizzled out in the last 12 hours. Wasn't going to be anything. And a good spot around Bermuda as well, though high wind shear near the coast of the US around the Carolinas and further north. Any questions or comments for us, and we'll answer it immediately as soon as we see it, as soon as I see it. And if you've got any questions for Craig, let him know as well.
Yeah. I'll try my hardest to answer them.
Yes. Craig, how long have you been tracking these storms now?
Ooh, right, that's now got me thinking. Well, I tracked the bands in January, so if I track from there...
In your own time, Craig.
Yeah. Just distract everybody, right? Just distract everybody.
You've been around since Bansi, basically, yes?
Yes, I'll just say that.
Well, if you've just joined us, you're looking at Typhoon Atsani with winds of 110 miles an hour, Goni with winds of 130 miles per hour, and Goni's air pressure believed to be around 920 millibars, we believe, as far as our indications show us. Invest 96L is still alive and could possibly get somewhere. We'll show you the models next. In the meantime, Craig's got to say something now.
Yeah. I've been tracking. According to my maths, I've been tracking for 8 months.
You've been what?
I've got 7 cat. I've been tracking for 8 months.
Okay.
And I've got 7 cat 5s under my belt. I wasn't expecting cat 5s. Not this many, anyway.
Yes, there's been a lot this year. Let me take you through the HWRF model right now, showing a few others on there as well. This is for Invest 96L, and this graphic may be starting to excite some people because you can see the HWRF predicting a Category 1 hurricane at least. Other models, such as the ships models, saying, and the LGEM as well, saying Category 2 quite possibly out of this. and another of the models down there predicting a little bit less, but all of them on an upward trend there, not an upward never mind. And you can sort of see its track on there as well, according to the wind swathe map there, where the storm's expected to go, becoming a hurricane in the next 5 days, according to the HWRF, though it is known for being somewhat aggressive, so take that with a pinch of salt, but that is one possible scenario.
I think at one point they were, some models were even forecasting a Category 3 at one point. I can't remember what model it was, but it was...
I can't remember.
It was definitely forecast. Well, one model was saying it was to become a Category 3. But there we go.
That's what it predicts with the rainfall as well in the next 5 days.
Yeah.
I think that's the next 5 days.
I think so.
I'm just getting the grips with this page, so I'm not sure what all the others are about.
Yeah.
Oh, that's an animation. Okay, that's good. So if I play it, the
Animations are
HWRF
useful.
model showing Invest 96. You can see it progressing along the track there, developing quite nicely into what appears to be
a hurricane.
Well, yeah, a nice looking hurricane there. At least Category 1. Probably looks a Cat 2 to me on there. What's this?
There's 96L there.
Yeah,
obviously.
You can see that.
Yep.
Wind shear. Forecast for wind shear.
Ooh.
And yeah, looking a bit high. And that will probably be the downfall of the storm. You can see the storm developing there as well on that. And entering a high wind shear environment around day 5 or day 6. But until then, it does certainly have a chance, I have to say. Has a chance.
Yep. It has a very good chance.
I think that's the GFS model in the blue lines there as well, predicting a little bit of a dilly-dally for 96L, where it stalls a little bit around 40 degrees west and then moves off towards the northwest and west. I don't think we've shown Goni on these graphics yet either. So let's take a look. There's the track for Goni. The HWRF taking it right over Taiwan, and it's been consistent with a landfall in Taiwan for around 12 hours or so now. JTWC's official track there showing it going towards Taiwan. It's like a blend between the HWRF and the GFS there. The GFS takes it away from Taiwan, really heading towards those southernmost Japanese islands, the Yayama Islands, and then off towards the north into the East China Sea, I would expect, and possibly towards a landfall on one of the main Japanese islands, but that will be quite a long way from now. The intensity models are all over the place, it has to be said. HWRF being the most aggressive with it, 145 knots there, 165 miles an hour, very strong Category 5 storm. And I wouldn't rule out any higher than that if that was to happen, which it might not at this point. JTWC, I think that's a fairly old forecast because they're not saying Category 5 anymore, and they are on this graphic. The Navy GFDL taking it on an early peak around about now, and then weakening and then strengthening again to reach a secondary peak around 125 miles an hour, Category 3. And some other models there as well. Coamps TC, never heard of that one. That's all over the place. 96 hours is its peak, around 145 miles an hour, and the lowest one is the Navgem, I'm guessing that is, which shows a peak, and this is the most conservative, showing a peak of 105 knots, which would correlate to 120 miles an hour, even though that's already been surpassed. Yeah, well, that's a terrible initiation on the Navgem forecast, down at 60 knots. What's going on there? Move on.
I have no idea.
Also, the pressure forecast is also really interesting. Last night, at the end of last night, it was predicting Goni to reach a low pressure. The HWRF model was predicting Goni to reach a pressure of 894 millibars, and I think now it's saying around 896. Just before the end of day 3 there, around 66 hours. Let's take a look at the wind swathe there. You can see there, those of you who like pictures more, showing quite clearly where the storm is expected to be a Category 5, all those pinkish areas, I believe I'm right in saying, is all for Category 5 with a maximum of 149 knots at its peak, which is probably going to be on day 3 at some point, day 2 or day 3, where it will reach a peak, it says, of around 175 miles an hour. So it's just interesting to see whether that one will play out or not. Obviously we hope not for Taiwan, and it does predict significant weakening when it does make landfall in Taiwan, but even there it says Category 4 landfall probably for Taiwan. And rainfall, of course, huge amounts of rainfall over the mountains of Taiwan on the east coast. What's that, 32 inches is that? Yes, it's in inches there. 32 inches or more, probably a lot more, because there's a huge area that's not been filled in there, in the pink area over Taiwan, so it'll probably be a very wet storm as well. Craig? Craig, hello? Oh, I think we've lost Craig for the moment. But that's for Goni. We may as well take a look at Atsani as well. I'm liking these models, by the way. I've never come across these before. A very straight line forecast for Atsani. Intensity, again, we're looking at well, JTWC there is the sort of the outlier, really, predicting a super typhoon. The rest of the models are not so keen at that, though I think super typhoon is a good shout, especially with how it's looking on the satellite imagery recently, which we'll show you again very shortly. Pressures taking it down to the 920s in millibars. Again, there's the wind swathe showing Category 4 winds. And the rainfall, of course, Atsani not affecting any land for some time, though it could be a long-range threat to Japan in the next few days. Craig?
Yeah, truly something. But 165 is definitely, reasonable. Oh, I hope things are going wrong.
For which storm? For Atsani?
Well,
I mean,
I'd say both, really, if you think
well,
about
I was
it.
just looking at the HWRF there saying possibly 175 miles an hour for Goni. Still.
Well, I put that down to 170 to 160. Well, 165 to 170. That's better.
So the agencies aren't very keen on seeing a Cat 5.
It should be.
They should be.
Because you'd have thought, learn a lesson by Sodalor, because, Sodalor surprised all of us by becoming 180.
Well, it keeps happening, but I think it's their job to be conservative in a way, because... Oh, noise in the background, Craig. Their job to be conservative, I suppose, because I suppose if they weren't conservative and went with the highest possible believable forecast, then they might be accused of being scaremongers, perhaps.
Possibly.
Especially if it didn't come to pass.
Yeah. But this might be the case in the future, global warming and satellite imagery again. The eye is getting its act together now.
There is still that little bit in the centre there of the old eye, perhaps, which is still yet to be replaced by the new one, but it's coming out, and I think by the time we see daylight imagery tomorrow morning, well, it's not going to be tomorrow really, strictly speaking, it's going to be around 6 hours from now, I think, or a bit more. We will be able to see the new eye of Goni.
Yep.
The new face of Goni.
It's regenerating.
Yes, yes indeed.
And we'll just go back to Goni.
Show everyone something else before, but I've forgotten what, so I can't.
Empty nuts. I'm supposed to forget these things.
But there we are.
These things happen.
We'll leave you for a few minutes with the tropics at a glance. This is Force 13 Live. It's 25 to 4 local time here in the UK, 25 to 3 UTC, and what time is it over in the Philippines and in Taiwan? They use the same time zone. I think it's going to be around 25 to midnight over there, and we'll be back shortly. Welcome back, this is Force 13, and I suppose one day this is what we might be doing a 24-hour stream, which will look a bit like this, with the music in the background when there's no one manning the fort. But you're looking at... Actually, let's stick with the storm totals there. I'd just like to point those out, because we're at 53 tropical storms in 2015 so far, 29 hurricanes or their equivalents around the world, that's with winds of 74 miles an hour or higher, 19 majors and 7 category 5s, and those last two numbers are really high for this time of year so far. Craig, you still with us?
Yep.
Oh, hello.
Hello.
What do you think of those numbers?
Surprising for this year. Surprising. Then again, it's now new. Anything.
See, I do wonder if we're heading towards a record this year with those.
I think we are as well.
Mm.
Especially the amount of tropical storms we've seen. Well, those are basically all the storms in total, really. But 29 hurricanes. Well, then again, most of them didn't become hurricanes, really. But a good majority.
What do you mean by that?
Well, anything unfavourable conditions that stop them, really. But I don't know whether I sparked a debate about Chedza, but we'll see. I don't know.
Chedza, yes.
Yeah, we all think that was a cyclone.
You do, I don't.
John certainly does.
Oh, does he now?
Yes.
Alright, okay. Well, if you guys have got any opinions on that, then please send your messages in, and Craig will take you to task if you disagree with him.
Yes.
Yes, indeed. Okay, well, you're looking at the latest tropics. Typhoon Atsani, if you've just joined us, is a 110 mile per hour Category 2 cyclone, typhoon. And to be quite honest, it's looking much better than that now in the latest satellite imagery. I'm going to get a different imagery up shortly. But Atsani is a Category 2 storm, 110 miles an hour. Goni is the strongest storm, a Category 3, a Category 4 even, with 130 mile per hour winds. And as we saw earlier on the models there, could become a stronger storm still. Quite possibly could become a Category 5 storm, but we're not entirely sure yet on whether that will happen. It's just as likely that the storm will weaken. It can go either way. And there's the latest satellite, one of the satellite imagery views on Goni, the infrared imagery. And again, you can see that new eye starting to come out. Let me try and get some Himawari imagery as well. But first of all, I'm going to have to talk to Craig whilst I find it. Hi, Craig.
Hi.
Again.
Yep.
I'm just loading a page, so I don't want people to be looking at nothing.
Yeah.
So we're looking at Craig instead.
Yeah.
Myself in the top left-hand corner.
I know. Get a screen share going as well. Well, wait. Have you got the Himawari imagery up?
Yes, I have.
Yes, I'll let you do that.
On the screen share. Loading on my screen now. So you can see both the storms. Himawari imagery, fantastic satellite launched by the Japanese earlier this year. And you can see both storms pretty well. I'm just trying to get another image. Which one do I usually go for? One of these on here.
Well, there's definitely the eye wall right there. You can see
which storm are you talking about there, Craig?
In Goni, you can see that it's a relatively large eye. Then again, that's classic.
Yes, I do think it will be larger than Atsani's for the time being.
Yeah. But I think it's, doing some characteristics of Sodalar, which was a rather spectacular typhoon, really.
Yeah, and so spectacular I missed it.
Yes. But, well, Nathan, we didn't look like you were going to miss much because it wasn't going to be Cat 5 at one point. Then it was sad to hear that you did miss it.
Right. Oh, there it is. Here's the latest imagery. Let's first take a look at, zoom in on Atsani.
Yep.
Takes a while to load. And you
It's
can
seeming a little bit exposed, just to the lower area.
certainly on
Then
the
it-
left-hand side, yes.
Yeah, but it's closing that off by the looks of it.
But that's probably the difference between just a typhoon and a major typhoon there.
Possibly.
I do think Category 3 is definitely on the cards if it's not there
Yeah.
already, though. It's looking as a strong Cat 3 to me.
Looks like high end.
Yeah, it's just what I said, Craig.
Oh,
Further
high end and
west,
mid.
there you can see the old eye still interfering with the new one, and the northwestern side of Goni looking a bit bare also.
Old eye, get lost.
Sorry?
Old eye, get lost.
Yes, indeed.
You've had your fun.
And
let
the new
a
one
new
on
one
its
come
way
in.
there.
Yeah. It is closing off that exposed area. But who knows?
Slowly but
'Cause the eye
surely.
will slowly but surely is.
Zooming out, let me just see if there's any other interesting features we can pick up on in the Western Pacific right now. I don't believe there is. So you can see influence.
Maybe that area behind Atsani, this little area here behind it.
Storminess associated with Goni extending all the way to the Philippines, isn't it?
That's a fair influence. There's this area, this little area here, behind Atsani, right behind it.
What, right behind it?
Yeah, this area here.
I'm not sure about that. The Central Pacific looking interesting.
Whoa!
Lots of
What's
little-
that?
Yeah, it looks like a big blob, but it's not so big. It's the very edge of the satellite there.
Ah,
But you can see lots of little storm systems here and there which could possibly develop into things in the future. In fact, let's take a look now at the models for that area in particular, the Pacific, which we've not looked at yet, the Eastern and Central Pacific, that is. And of course the Atlantic. Let's take a look at the CMC model then, which will show you what's going on in the Atlantic and the East Pacific. So you can see, well actually you can't see it, but it's just off the left hand side. Actually I'll resize the screen. It's a bit of a pain having to resize the screen, but
I had to think about that, didn't you?
no, but I do.
Yeah.
Shh. I do want you guys. I do want you guys to see this. Oh, there it is. Okay, that's the best I can do. So you can see the systems there. Two significant storms forming in the Central Pacific by the looks of things, west of 140 degrees. One of them becoming a significant storm and brushing the eastern coast of Hawaii. That's the CMC. Now, those observant ones will have been watching the Atlantic and seen a new system forming in the northern part of the Atlantic and moving towards the northwest. I'm not sure if that's tropical, but it's certainly deep. Heading towards Nova Scotia and probably brushing it a little bit and moving off towards the northeast could be a problem for Newfoundland in the future as well.
Yep.
And then in the East Pacific you have another significant storm forming, possible depression behind it, the Atlantic, a tropical wave possibly developing, another one near the Cape Verde Islands also, but no mention really of Invest 96 unless it is that thing that becomes a storm there. No, I don't think it is. I think that's something else. A brief Atlantic storm near the Cape Verde Islands also moving the wrong way, beginning to move northeast and then moving off towards the northwest. Remarkable.
Then it becomes a tropical wave. Again.
ECMWF model. Let's see. So eyes on Hawaii and the Atlantic here. The ECMWF doesn't predict anything at all. At least that version doesn't. Here's another one. Where we see another storm forming in the Central Pacific and moving off towards the west. Nothing of 96L as far as I can tell.
Yeah.
And then there's a new system in the Atlantic and possibly two systems. A system forming and moving towards the northeast off the coast of Nova Scotia again. And another storm moving through the Cape Verde Islands and then out into the Atlantic. So very interesting indeed over the next few days for people watching the Atlantic. The GFDL model for 96L Let's see what that says. Probably not much because it doesn't usually.
Nothing.
Predicting very little, nothing at all. HWR we've sort of already seen, so we won't go through that again. The GFS, I think still predicts something for Hawaii, if I'm not mistaken, but we'll have a look. And a possible tropical storm in the Atlantic. You don't know where to look, do you?
No.
And a storm
Not
passing
in the
to the south of Hawaii there, a new storm in the central Pacific. But also looking at the Atlantic at this point, around 5 days from now, possibly a new storm developing near Bermuda and a tropical wave possibly developing as it approaches approaches the Lesser Antilles. Could be a problem for that area.
There's a landfall in Hawaii there from that storm. In the
Yes, the bit that they
Central
missed.
Pacific. Yes, that's
a hurricane
outrageous.
landfall not far from Honolulu, maybe.
Ooh.
Would be interesting. And finally, the nav gem,
Possibly nothing either.
which has a storm forming and possibly activity in the Atlantic as well, though not
Very
nothing
large.
strong.
No. It's good to see that we're getting the Atlantic waking up.
Yeah. Okay. Well,
Finally.
that's the models.
Yep.
10 minutes to go on the show before we finish up for now. Of course, you can follow Force 13 on all of its outlets, Facebook, Twitter, even on Instagram as well, run by Marcel. Posting pictures here and there, and we do on Facebook also. Please follow us on one of those for the latest information on all the storms when we're not on air, which might not be very often in future because, you know, we're thinking of possibly doing 24-hour streaming service in the future, maybe. Will Craig be on it? Probably not, by the sounds of
Probably
things.
We're not.
Yes, indeed. Okay, well, Craig, I think you've got to go now, haven't you?
Yep.
Well, thanks for joining us. It's been a pleasure.
As always.
And we'll see you again soon.
Yep. See ya.
Au revoir.
Toodles.
Toodles.
Typhoon tip.
Yes, indeed. And you're left with just myself for the last 10 minutes in that case, where we're watching Goni and Atsani, two significant tropical storms, or typhoons as they are, of course, in the Western Pacific. If you've just joined us, Goni is a 130 mile per hour Category 4 storm, that's 130, with a probable pressure of around 920 millibars. We've also got Typhoon Atsani, another strong storm, and certainly developing in those last few frames if you were looking at the satellite imagery before, and that is officially still only 110 miles per hour, but certainly appears to be on the way towards becoming a major significant storm. We've also got Tropical Depression 11E in the Pacific. We've not really been giving that one much attention during this show because it's not really doing anything and it's on its way out. Didn't manage to get named. And we've also got Invest 96 in the Atlantic, which, as you saw before on the HWRF models, predicting a hurricane Category 1 or Category 2 in the next 5 days. You can see all the storms there on the page. And Atsani certainly getting that look about it, becoming a significant typhoon. But at the moment, officially, only 110 miles per hour, a little bit flimsy on the western side of the eye wall. Same too for Goni on the northwestern side, having a little bit of a battle between the eyes for Goni at this time. But as we believe, the pressure the intensity remains at 130 miles an hour, but could become a Category 5 storm if it gets its act together in the next few days. Any comments for us, or just me as it is now, please send in a message on the YouTube page and I'll reply. If there's anything in particular you'd like me to show on the page or give attention to or just to talk about, you're more than welcome to do just that. No warnings in effect for any areas right now, otherwise would have told you a long time ago. Though if I were in the Philippines or in the Taiwan, I'd certainly be preparing possibly for a bad typhoon on the way, especially in Taiwan. As we saw on the models, predicting a lot of rainfall and possibly Category 4 winds according to the HWRF. But that is by no means set in stone. That is only an indication but certainly something to be wary of and possibly something to prepare for. Japanese islands won't be getting away with it either by the looks of things. Goni will probably end up moving towards the northeast unless it makes landfall on Taiwan and follows the HWRF scenario. By making landfall on Taiwan, it will probably spare the Japanese islands. But then there's Atsani on the other hand, which is expected to move sort of in a straight line towards the northwest and become a significant typhoon, currently predicted to become a super typhoon with winds of 150 miles an hour along with Goni. Not expected to affect any islands anytime soon, though I know that Guam is saying on their forecasts just to be vigilant, those on the Mariana Islands, of the possibility that Atsani may move further west and spark watches or warnings on the Mariana Islands, but to me that seems pretty unlikely. Invest 96L could become something in the Atlantic, as we saw the HWRF predicting a Category 1, some of the models saying possibly Cat 2, and high end at that, in the next 5 days. That would certainly be a sight to behold in August in the Atlantic. We're starved, aren't we? Starved of storms and hurricanes in the Atlantic Ocean in the past few years, though I'm sure we'll get some more active seasons before too long, though I'm not saying it will be this year because I really don't think it will be, though I do think we will see a hurricane or three. Storm totals so far in 2015, 53 tropical storms, what was it, 29 hurricanes I think, 19 majors and 7 Category 5 storms. Those last two numbers are pretty much at record levels for this time of year, and the 19 major hurricanes or equivalents around the world, of course, 19 is just 2 away from the whole of the year 2010 and 3 off the whole of the year 1991. Remarkable, considering how the peak of the season in the northern hemisphere is still yet to arrive, and we could possibly see some developments in the southern hemisphere before the year is out. Also, as we saw in the year 1997, which I expect will be a very similar year to what we'll be experiencing the rest of this year, we could see more late season storms in the West Pacific. It just makes you wonder how many Category 5s can that ocean churn up in 1 year, and I do think we may see a record this year. The record was set in 1997 when we saw 11 Category 5 storms form in that ocean. This year so far I think we've seen, what is it? I think it's, I'm struggling to think, I think we've only seen 4 actually. This would be number 5 in the West Pacific if I'm not mistaken, because we had Bansi, Eunice, Pam, Maysack, I've forgotten the rest of them now, Dolphin, Noel, Sudalore, and I think Goni would be the next one if I didn't miss any out. I can't remember now if I did. But that's the situation in the tropics right now. We're going to go off air shortly. We'll have more updates later on this evening. I don't know whether we'll go live again this evening, but we'll certainly be having some video updates on the YouTube channel. If you've not subscribed already, please do, to keep you most up to date with the videos, and you also might want to follow the Facebook or Twitter page as well, which will keep you up to date with not only the video updates but with the imageries as well and any new information as it comes out. I'd recommend Facebook because we have more than one author on there, and updates come in thick and fast when we have storms active. But from myself, Nathan Foy, and from Craig, who's long gone, at the Force 13 HQ, that's all from me, and I'll see you again soon. I'll leave you with the scrolling imagery of the current storms out there right now.